So I thought, I really want to know but I'm afraid to ask a question. I'm afraid to say, excuse me,
Absolutely.
if we do this, what will happen then? Because I'll be told that I'm asking this question from some hidden motive, that I'm trying to downgrade them. Yeah, exactly what you said.
Yes, exactly. They're taking it as a put down, as an attack, just
Yes,
for looking for the
yes,
science. You must conform, you must agree without question.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're attacking them, which is, again, a mammalian, that's the status thing of like,
yeah.
you have to put me in the one up position.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, I'm in the one down position, and it's your fault for putting me in the one down
Yeah,
position. And
yeah,
if you get a herd to unify around this belief, then they're going to be strong and they're going to silence anyone who disagrees, because
yeah,
you see how anyone who disagrees gets attacked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then therefore I don't ask the questions that I need to ask. So I still sit there going, geez, how am I going to find this out? I'm too afraid to ask.
And you're not supposed to ask, you're supposed to take it on faith. So
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
go a little bit more into what you're
Yeah.
supposed to take on faith.
Okay.
So we don't want to get too much into this, because we know it's an endless discussion. Some
Yeah.
people have followed it a lot, others haven't. But there's the abstinence view,
Yeah.
which says if you have one drink, you're
Mhm.
probably going to have another, because
Yeah.
it's going to lower your guard.
Uh-huh.
And people who have a history of addiction, they
Mhm.
should have none. And that
Right.
would apply to drugs also. So
Exactly.
the harm reduction, which has nice packaging on it. So it says, of course, we're caring. We don't want to shame anybody. We just want to
Mhm.
make them feel better. And
Mhm.
we want to be tolerant of their disorder. We know all that nice packaging on it, but it's
Yeah.
basically saying, and so if you keep using,
Mhm.
we'll just continue to treat you. It's not a
Mhm.
condition of treatment that you
Yes. Right.
stop using. We'll not only treat you, we'll give you free money, we'll give
Mhm.
you lots of moral support, we'll give you
Yes.
everything you want, which is effectively rewarding bad behavior. It's
Yes.
effectively giving a horse carrots for bucking,
Yes.
in my view.
And
For,
gives them, it's that dignity of choice. It's that dignity. It's that martyr that you mentioned. There's a heroic element there.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So somehow they are a victim of a disease that is
Yeah.
like cancer, that a person can't do anything about.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
use the word dignity, but I would use it another way. I think you're taking away their dignity
Mm.
when you're saying that they're powerless to make choices.
Yeah.
But to be fair, then Alcoholics Anonymous has also said we are powerless over our disease, but they
Uh-huh.
are responding by saying, so we're going to make the choice to not use. So
Uh-huh.
everybody is dealing with these very sticky issues, but a
Uh-huh.
middle ground, I think, would be to at least acknowledge. So the core issue is, if I use a little bit of something,
Uh-huh.
that might be okay, but it's only okay if I can stop myself from using too much. And
Uh-huh.
stopping yourself from using too much is a learned skill.
Mm.
And if you don't learn it, then you could kill yourself on the way to learning it.
Right. That's
And
true.
yet, if it's fun to keep doing it, then you're not going to learn it if you keep getting rewards for not learning it,
Uh-huh. Okay.
right?
All right.
So it's so hopefully the two sides can talk to each other and come to some consensus, but that's not where we are now. That it's hard to talk.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what you could say, well, one good thing that could come out of this is that more people can get treatment, because one perspective appeals to some people and one perspective appeals to others. And we should
Yeah.
also add, here's a big thing. Alcoholics Anonymous treatment is often effectively free,
Uh-huh.
whereas harm reduction treatment is expensive, because there's layer on layer on layer of
Yeah.
bureaucracy and
Yes.
professional budgeting.
Yeah, that's right. And medication services. Yeah. I mean, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
There is,
medication and drug company advertising
yes.
campaigns.
Yeah, I do have to say I can get a little bit dubious about that. But what you were saying about the mid ground, I don't know if I would agree with that specific one that you suggested, but there are probably others that are mid ground, and I think we need conversation to talk about them. And it's true, we can't get there. It's one or the other, and we need the information to move from that spot, and we're not there.
Great. So what other middle ground can you suggest?
I don't know, maybe finding another equivalent but not same substance to clearly the person is trying to actually, I think you might like this one, just knowing your background. Like I have in fact, you may have said something like this. I have a personal belief that people who are drawn to addictive behaviors are people who are willing to take risks, and they're willing to stand out in some way and take the risk of dying or take the risk of whatever. And so they're clearly the ones that are willing to be adventurers and speak out against the norm. And can we find ways to reward that behavior? Because we live in a society that just wants everybody the same. And so is there some way that we can invite? It's so hard because, to become an entrepreneur of some sort, or to become but it's so hard to do that in our society, which doesn't want us to stand out like that. It wants us to be following, I don't know. Anyway, I think that I would like to see something like that. But we're using the same ideas. Can you still capture that dopamine? But in a safe way, in a way that you can stop. And I like that idea. So anyway, the fact that we could talk about that, that's an invitation to another perspective than the shut her down or let it all hang out. And because we can't control it anyway.
Yeah. So my idea about this dopamine thing is to have realistic expectations.
Yes, that's
We're
right.
not going to have this fabulous feeling every minute.
Exactly.
But if you could get a small bit of dopamine with a healthy activity that you can repeat, so you can get repeated small
I love that. I love that. Actually, one of the things I don't know if maybe it was in the what you sent me. Somewhere you wrote to have many little rewards, like that you build that in, and I think that's an excellent. I think actually, if you look at anybody who's successful, they're not chasing the big reward every minute of the day. It's impossible. Somehow they've made that big reward over there, and on the road to that are these many, many, many little rewards, which might just be in an hour, I'm going to get up and have a glass of water. I think you used that example in something.
Yes, I made it a cup of tea with a cookie.
Yeah.
Water you can have all the time.
Or, just get up and open the door, like patio, and just enjoy it. That simple little thing might be just enough to get me through the next half hour of whatever it is.
Exactly. And I'm not saying, of course, that you have a cookie every half hour, but you have a wide variety of rewards.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So if I may tell you my theory of addiction and see.
Please do.
Okay. So I use the analogy of, if you're a baboon and you're being chased by a lion and you climb a tree and that saves your life, and you have this huge feeling of relief. And so that's a big dopamine spurt that's accentuated by relieving a big cortisol spurt. So anything that shifts you from a bad feeling to a good feeling is a huge reward from your brain's perspective. So the baboon is now wired to scan for trees the next time it smells a lion. And so this has a functional primal purpose that relief is a very valuable thing to learn from. Now, let's take a young child who is in a very bad situation. And in that moment, when they're feeling very bad about their surroundings, they pick up a video game. And that video game is like, it's a relief, just because they've shifted their attention from their bad surroundings to something they have control over, and they're stimulating their dopamine. So it's really irrelevant what the thing is that you're addicted to. It's the fact that it's relieving you from a bad scene that you're activating partly from the environment, but perpetuating in your brain. And all it takes is to shift your attention to something else, which of course a substance does that, alcohol does that, but it's also
Yeah.
the act of going to the party and feeling the acceptance at the party. So it's the whole basket of
Yeah.
inputs that distracts you from whatever distress you were in. And that only has to happen, a very little bit in your
Yeah.
adolescence to build a myelinated pathway to say, the next time you feel bad, this is what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I like that. That's like learned behavior. Yes, I get that.
Now that's to me different from with the harm reduction people. They are saying that people have trauma and this is trauma informed care.
Yes. Yes.
But the way I'm saying it is that everybody has trauma in this,
Yeah.
and everybody has addictions. Everybody has past pain, and
Yeah.
everybody relies on whatever worked for their past pain. And
Yeah.
so everybody is at risk of like overusing those past tools, and
Yes.
everybody needs to build themselves a variety of new tools.
That's right. Yeah. In consideration of that perspective, I actually know what you're talking about, and I don't buy that completely. So I'm just speaking on their behalf, but I don't actually follow it completely. I think they would make the argument that they not only did they have the trauma and then found the relief, and that's how that happened, but they also, because it happened probably on a repeated basis, they just never at that adolescent phase learned another way. So they didn't have the new pathways to deal with, whereas less traumatized person probably had a little bit more of a repertoire of alternative ways.